PowerPoint. I cannot see your notes.
Yeah, we can't see notes.
Okay, why'd you scare me? Okay. All right, it's 4 o'clock. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in today and taking the time out of our busy day to attend this webinar that we're doing. So it's about quarantine blues, protecting your mental health during times of hardship. Licensed professional counselor, and I have my Master of Arts in Clinical Mental Health Counseling. And I've had the privilege and the honor of working with ICNA Relief Muslim Family Services since I moved here, so October 2018. And with me today, I have Sister Kamilah Rashad.
Yeah. Assalamu alaikum. I am Kamilah Rashad. I am also a counselor at Muslim Family Services. I am fairly new there, but I've been in the service field for many, many years, and I'm happy to be here with Sister Nadia because she's just awesome.
Thank you. You are too. And we have Dr. Mashal Khan from Toronto.
Hi guys, Assalamu alaikum. Like Nadia introduced me, my name's Mashal. I went to medical school in Ireland. I did my postgrad training in the States at Harvard, and since then I actually left clinical medicine in order to pursue a more holistic route of healing. So my realm is called health and wellness coaching, and that is what I do now.
All right, well, thank you. So today, the agenda. Who is affected during this time crisis? Why is mental health important during this time? We're going to talk about reducing the stigma, ways to protect our mental health, coping with grief, self-care, prioritizing nutrition, positive self-talk, connected, getting ready for Ramadan, being thankful, and talk a little bit about telemedicine and teletherapy during this time. So, who is affected? Individuals, important events, graduations, proms, weddings, etc. I know there's a bunch of students in high school missing their senior year graduation and prom, graduating college for the first time, especially those of first generation, missing their very important firsts of accomplishments. Able to walk across the stage for their families to witness, that diploma at the end of it all in hopes of pursuing and planning planning their career. Individuals having to go through the tedious process of relocating due to job and educational institution closures. Some of these relocations might involve overseas travel, and some might not be stranded border lockdowns. Either way, no small adjustment. Individuals having to isolate away from their families, sense of protection or not of necessity. Frontline workers risking their lives, and we'll talk a little bit about that later. Individuals living in toxic for whom normal routine was an escape or a protective measure. Remember that for many people, leaving the house every day was an act of freedom and safety. Consider the children living in abusive or impoverished households for whom school or daycare was the only promise of food and affection in a day. Coping with job loss, scrambling to make sense of how to make ends meet. Individuals completely isolated during this time, whether due to living alone or having lost, unable to lean on the comfort of others to survive. And individuals experiencing stigma due to COVID-19. And that's what we're going to talk about next. Reducing stigma. So groups of people experiencing stigma because of COVID-19 include individuals of Asian descent, individuals who have recently traveled, individuals with a history of infection in their social avoidance or rejection, denials of healthcare, education, housing, employment, physical and verbal violence. You guys have heard the news and reports of innocent young children of Asian descent being subjected to ruthless physical violence driven by the ignorance and fear of adults. Stigma hurts everyone by creating fear or anger towards other people. It's just another way that the media manipulates our minds subconsciously to further fear monger viewers into a panic. Think about the inaccuracies and injustices we faced after 9/11. more than a decade around the world. It is in our power to ensure no other group has to be subjected to that kind of misplaced scrutiny. So, self-care tips for Asian Americans who are stigmatized, reaching out to those who share similar experiences as you. Isolate it together. Find common ground and lean on each other through whatever communication means you have. Everyone is in the same predicament. Avoid TV and headlines. The next time you come across COVID content online, which will undoubtedly be within a few moments of this presentation, pay special attention to the sensation of your body. Or your belly or a quickened heart rate, let that inform your decisions on what you can take in content-wise and when it's too much. And we're going to talk about that later. Put your safety first. If someone confronts or profiles you because you're Asian, whether it's a look, a racial slur, or something worse, safety should be your first priority and concern. Typically, the best way to have self-defense is to walk away from these provocations. Avoiding the grocery store. Unfortunately, most of the cases that we've heard on the news happened to be there. So this is a fear, it's a recommendation at the moment. You can avoid it, do so. Opt for pre-order pickup or delivery options, such as Whole Foods through Amazon, Instacart. My husband and I are always ordering through, Amazon Prime for Whole Foods, and we get to pick our time slots and they deliver within 2 hours. So it's very, very convenient. Importance of mental health during this period of isolation. Recognizing how you're feeling can help you care for yourself and others, manage your stress, and cope with difficult situations. Even with something as unpredictable as our current state of affairs, there are things you can do to regain and maintain. Being comfortable by yourself is hard, especially during this pandemic, but there are ways to make it feel a little easier, and we'll get more into that. There is a differentiation between being alone versus loneliness and versus solitude. Surviving at home with others. If you're living with a significant other or partner or other family members, it makes perfect sense to be struggling right now in your relationship. So we're stuck inside our homes, forced to spend more time together than ever before. So it can be overwhelming. And how many of you guys are struggling with this right now? And please feel free, if you guys have any questions, there's a Q&A at the bottom. Type that in there and we can answer all these questions at the end. Being worried about protecting yourself and loved ones. This is another common fear of anxiety. There are ways to reduce them though, and we're going to dive into this today. And distress. Beyond worry, this time can put undue pressure on pre-existing mental health issues, hinder the progress you were making with them, and of course, add of unease, survival in a completely debilitating way. So being alone, loneliness, and versus solitude. So there's definitely an overlap between these three concepts, but they have different solutions, and it's helpful to know what you're working with so you can reframe your thoughts. So being alone, physically being by yourself. If you live with a roommate who you're not really friends with, or you're dating someone but they're not nearby, you may feel like you're functionally alone right now. Example, not having anyone to talk to in your city, and you just moved to a new city for a new job, and you're not having to deal with the person who you can totally be yourself with, talk about every little mundane detail of your day. Those are also ways like you can be feeling being alone. Loneliness is a feeling how humans ultimately need some social connection to feel good and right. Even humans who are comfortable with a lot of alone time. So it's important to be proactive in addressing loneliness you're feeling right now. Solitude, not being in contact with people. So if you're not watching TV or reading a book, not staying engaged, etc., those define solitude. And if you are feeling lonely, tell people that you're definitely the only person at how to be with others right now. And telling people can be a huge relief and demonstrate to those you care about that they're allowed to talk about these about these feelings if they're feeling them too. Quality over quantity. You are going to be tempted to social media. Let's be real. There are going to be people to talk to, but this is a great opportunity to check in with people that are closest to you by focusing on deepening your established relationships and relative ones that actually matter to you, and make it a priority to stay in touch and connect with them. Created by media to good use and intentional use. Putting self-criticism. So often, discomfort with solitude is rooted in not really liking yourself all that much, and in that fear that your aloneness says something about your worth. But not having a partner or a strong social network or a reliable broken, messed up, or unlovable, now more than ever is the time to keep reminding yourself of that. So the way to deal with these dark thoughts is not to try to tune them out entirely or to attempt to quiet them through outside approval. Instead, working on sorting through who you are and on believing on a deeper level that you are good and whole and worthy. Getting to that point and learning to enjoy your own company probably won't happen overnight, but you can take small steps. Start by being soft with yourself as much as you can. When negative or critical thoughts pop up, acknowledge their existence, but don't follow them down to a rabbit hole. Take a little time to do something corny but effective. Even if you do so, do it in your head, like making a list of your values, interests, priorities, best qualities, and or recent successes. Even if they're small, there's no way around it. Getting comfortable being alone takes practice. I found that it's helpful to be proactive about it, making a conscious choice to be alone with your thoughts for a set period of time. But don't forget to set an end time as well. And taking baby steps feels way less overwhelming than having it suddenly dump upon you because none of your friends are responding to your text. Picking up meditative habits or hobbies. Now, we're going to talk a lot about these meditative habits and hobbies, but meditation is a great way to get more comfortable with solitude. It's also not every cup of tea, so activities such as finding something fairly repetitive, but still enjoyable and energizing. So for some of my friends that I've talked to before this presentation, that includes doing puzzles, embroidery, sewing, cross-stitch, hand lettering. For you, it might be painting with watercolors, making pasta from scratch, baking banana bread that I've seen a lot of on my friends' Instagram stories. And apparently the rest of the world are playing video games, Animal Crossing, and they got the Nintendo Switch going on. Whatever your hobby of choice is, the idea is to keep your hands busy, but your mind free. Now, of course, surviving at home with others. This is so important to talk about that it deserves its own slide. We're relying on a partner for most of all of our social support because we can't see our friends or relatives. We're balancing new responsibilities like working from home, child and housekeeping. It's undoubtedly a lot of change all at once. At the same time, some people are acknowledging their relationship woes because it seems as if there are much bigger issues to worry about. But it's okay to acknowledge the ways your relationship is being affected by the coronavirus crisis. Nurturing your relationship has to start with nurturing yourself. It's simply too much to expect your partner to be your sole source of stress. You can't pour from an empty cup, and you shouldn't 100% rely on outsourcing for your peace and happiness either. That is a decision you have to make within. Allow yourself to feel what we resist persists. When we give ourselves permission to feel the full range of emotions and validate that what we're feeling makes sense, emotions dissipate much faster. Journal. 5 to 10 minutes every day writing freeform, writing whatever you want. Getting a wild disarray of thoughts down onto paper helps sense of what we're thinking. And I'm not a journal type person either, but I've been doing it since this whole thing started, and it makes a huge difference. Again, meditate. This is one of the absolute best things for mental health. You use an app or you're a meditation vet, do it through exercise or just allow your few moments to be still And let's see. Sorry, a pop-up came up. And fresh air, a change of scenery, and work on your strength and endurance all in one go. See other sources of connection. Reach out to friends and relatives without your partner by your side. Have different external sources of support. So to add some healthy division today and to give each other some new and unique perspective. Make a plan. Sit down with your partner to discuss everything that's on your plate and make a plan for how you're going to handle it as a team. Create a shared calendar with all your and responsibilities and carve out specific when you're going to do them. I personally recommend having a brief weekly meeting every Sunday to anticipate the week ahead. Schedule as much as you can. I also recommend a quick meeting at the end of each day to discuss a plan for the next, just to catch up in general. There are so many things that we can't control right now, but it can feel have a plan for the things that are in our control. Check in with each other. Planning for the next day is one thing, but it's also important to remember that your partner is not a robot and probably experiencing emotions you are. It can be useful to stop and ask each other questions like, what was your day like? What sort of feelings are coming up for you right now? Are there any ways that I can support you or be a better partner to you? And also, like, we can't read each other's minds. So it's very important that you guys communicate. Be intentional about time being spent together. You're probably spending more time together than before. As much as you love your partner, this can quickly lead to tension and frustration. So set some healthy boundaries. If you're both working from home, maybe having your own spaces. If you close the door between the two of you, that's ideal. Try to give each other space during the day. If you can, limit your verbal communication. Try texting instead. We're always texting each other instead. And we'll just meet up for. It's normal to need alone time. Be creative about how you can carve out time. So for example, maybe you can trade off taking the morning shift with the children so you can share responsibilities evenly. Be creative with date nights. Sticking to or starting a date night tradition can bring so much joy and anticipation into your relationship. Try visiting a museum online, reading a book to each other, cooking an elaborate meal together, or even just intentionally dressing up for dinner date at home. And that's what we did. Unfortunately, it was our second anniversary and my birthday in 1 week. So we played dress up, got some nice lamb chops going. Well, dinner date twice for that. It's better than nothing, you know. And nights includes like, we'll catch a TV show or a movie and play with our baby. We'll play table tennis, play pool, that kind of thing, you know. We go for walks all the time as well. So that's ideal as well. Practice gratitude and appreciation. These next few weeks and months are going to be a challenge for none of us to be perfect partners. Do your best and thank each other for being willing to make an effort. Tell your partner, I see all the work you've been doing. Thank you. As challenging as everything is at this time, there's also a lot to be grateful. Try to share a few things you're grateful for every day. The more gratitude you express, the more often you'll find yourself noticing little moments to appreciate. And we could use more of those now. What to do when you get sick? I know that's like a big worry on everyone's minds these days. So what you can do, if you feel like it would put your mind at ease, make a document with some rough plans so you can update as needed. First, understand the symptoms. Understand your area's protocol. So know the numbers to dial for primary care doctor or local testing center for further instructions. And instead of reporting to the ER or even the doctor's office right away. Stay rational. Don't put yourself in harm's way around others and protect them from yourself if you are possibly carrying the virus. The only time you should be reporting to the ER immediately is if you are experiencing symptoms severity, meaning fever and or difficulty breathing. Locate the closest hospital and write down the ER room number. Also, if you don't know where the entrance to it is, make a note of it, and when you call them, write it down. Transportation. How are you going to get there if you need to? Would someone be able to drive you? Insurance card. If you have healthcare, got to make sure your insurance card is in your wallet. But you know what? If you don't have the physical card, that is okay. Just write the the member number, group number, and other details on a piece of paper and put that in your wallet. Many insurance companies also offer a digital copy, so you can always contact them and screenshot it and have it saved to your phone. Care responsibility over or pets. You have a dependents that would need tending to if you were hospitalized. Who would look after them? How will they get your key? Who will mind them should you need to leave, possibly for an extended stay at the hospital? Consider preparing or updating your will and testament, power of attorney, and details on advance directives. In preparation for the worst case scenario, stay prepared for every situation to maintain some semblance of organization and peace. The goal of this document is to feel less overwhelmed should a critical situation present itself. So if you're finding that creating it is stress-provoking, it's totally okay, it's totally fine to work on it in small doses, pause it when you're in a better place emotionally. Stay connected. These are the most popular apps I know of so far. If there are more, please feel free to write that down for me. So I can have this updated. But I know for TikTok, me and my girls dressed up recently, made a silly video. It was so nice. It was so great for our mental health and self-care. So it was a lot of fun. There's Skype, WhatsApp, iPhone has their basic FaceTime. There's Facebook, there's Zoom that we're using right now. There's House Party that me and my friends also did, and we played Heads Up. And again, we all got dressed up and looked nice and just pretended we were all hanging out in person. So it was nice. And I did that with my girls back home in Florida. Also, caring for others now is very, very important during this time. When you are intentional with your self-care, you will have more capacity of care for others. So example, writing a letter of encouragement, ordering groceries for your loved ones, your neighbors, or an elderly individual, doing a tour with someone you live with, or working on a project together. And maybe even calling someone you've lost touch with. This is the perfect time. Before we do go on, I do want to say that while some aspect we've discussed and will go on to discuss may come across as cliches, but it's important to remember the value each one of these small acts to yourself and that they amount to an amalgamation.
I do just want to jump on here and give my 2 cents as well. Because even on a biological level, every single small act of kindness and care stimulates the production of dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin, and endorphins in the brain. And I'm sure many of you have heard of these before. They're this amazing quartet responsible for our happiness on a chemical level. And these feel-good neurotransmitters are part of the brain's reward system. So kindness and happiness is actually a chemical. The same pathway that gets excited at the consumption of sugar or creates a feeling of euphoria with illicit drug use, that can be replicated through kindness or dopamine stimulating acts. Dopamine and the high you get when that's released is actually referred to as helper's high, which I'm sure you've heard of. Then you have oxytocin. And oxytocin is this hormone that's released when we're intimate with others, when we're with our children, when we're with our families. And what's amazing about oxytocin is it helps us feel more generous, feel more trusting, be more friendly, all while bringing our blood pressure down. It kind of solves all of humanity's problems. And then we have serotonin. Many of you might have heard this if you're into mental health, which you must be. And it's a hormone that is targeted specifically in the most common antidepressant drugs. The entire class is actually called selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors. And what they do is they work to increase the circulation of serotonin in the brain, which can be drastically decreased in conditions like depression. And endorphins are these beautiful things that are released when we're satisfied and we're mentally well. We have done a good job. When people tell you to write a list and tick it off as you go, the reason they're telling you to do that is not just It's not a cliche. It actually stimulates the release of endorphins in your body when you feel accomplished, like you've done something that feels great to you. And it's your body's natural painkiller. And so I just think it's so amazing how we can heal ourselves down to a chemical level. But in order for the results to be exponential and long-term, we have to be repetitive and intentional. For example, biochemically, you will actually get a 3 to 5 minute oxytocin boost from just one act of kindness. And this could be a personal act of kindness to yourself or within your family, or even community-based. It could be big or small. And the more often you practice this, the more it's almost contagious to not only every other cell in your body, but also the world around you. And the more we can maintain that feel-good feeling.
Thank you for that. So with that being said, kind of leading into, you are not stuck at home, you are safe at home, and we would love to hear, what you guys are doing to keep yourself busy at home. So put that in your Q&A, and then we can read those off at the end as well. It would be nice to kind of from everyone, because I know a lot of people are tuning in from all over the States. So it would be nice to kind of hear what everyone's doing. So taking care of your mental. So let's see. So here are some clear action points that allow you to protect your mental health going forward. Defining your feelings and coping with grief, staying informed, limiting time screen, taking action, self-care, prioritizing nutrition, positive talk, techniques to stay in the present, getting ready for Ramadan. I thought it would be the perfect opportunity to put this in our sites as it's approaching, and with the audience that have been tuned in. Finding resources for support, and yes, sorry, Mashal.
So I just want to talk also a little bit about coping with grief. It is part of human nature to fear the unknown. And I think that's what most of us are feeling this day and age, fear. Every conversation you have, every face you see, it's riddled with the spoken and unspoken concern that affects us all. But there's just so much going on that it's kind of hard to vocalize or organize your thoughts into what exactly you're feeling. And it's easier to cope with this unease if we can define our feelings. And that is the first step to having some semblance of control over them. So the melancholia the world is experiencing, we call it grief. And everyone is grieving in a different way and for different things. Some are grieving for lives lost, and those that have been impacted both directly through infection or collateral suffering. We're worried over a wrecked economy and not being able to anticipate the trajectory of our financial situation rather, and the impending recession. We're mourning for normal routines and unfulfilled plans. Things like weddings, graduations, like Nadia mentioned, travel, family visits, sports games even, the things we once looked forward to that have been postponed indefinitely. And we grieve for the world that we once lived in that almost as dramatically as a movie has ceased to exist overnight. We mourn physical closeness and comforts. Someone put it in great terms when they said that hugs and intimacy have actually been weaponized against us. The things that in tragic times would normally bring us comfort and ease our sorrows are the exact things that are the most dangerous for us. And of course, we have anticipatory grief, because we don't have closure and we don't have clarity and we just don't know when this is all going to end. And it's funny, if you look at politicians in your government right now, everyone is feeding us bite-sized extensions of this quarantine isolation period, because if they upfront told us that this is going to be going on for 2, 3, 4 months at a time, all of humanity might just collapse. We would not be able to grasp that and act on it in the way that we need to in order to protect ourselves through that physical and social distancing. So they're feeding us these bite-sized pieces just to keep us engaged, give us little goals to accomplish, because they know that's what's going to work for us in the long haul. But guess what? That is literally it. We just defined our concerns. And now they cease to have any power over us. Our minds cannot comprehend matters that they haven't grasped. But once we have, we can move forward, and we can move forward in a productive way, because when you can see the beast in front of you, you can sidestep around it.
With that being said, so stay informed, attain proper and factual knowledge and information from reputable sources such as the CDC and the WHO. Be selective about how you consume the news and information. It's generally a good idea to stay engaged and informed, but having some limits on your consumption can help limit overwhelm and shift our mood. So watching or listening to the same news constantly can increase stress. Can be an easier medium to control how much and what kind of information you're absorbing. Set limits on when and how for how long you consume the news and information, including through social media. It may help you to choose a couple of 15-minute blocks each day when you will check the news or the social media, and limit your news consumption to that time. False information spreads very easily on social media and can have serious consequences for individual and public health. Yes, I'm talking to all these aunties who have got a PhD. They're always sending false and reading false information, and that also triggers their stress and anxiety. And so it's also very important to verify the sources. Make sure they're reputable, especially before sharing anything. Don't succumb to fake, please. Podcasts. And these are some of the best ones that comes to hacking your brain through inspiring stories from the most brilliant masterminds. Entrepreneurs, wow, I cannot talk, world-class athletes, scientists, and influential celebrities on the planet to help you find out what makes people great at what they do, and inspiring us to put those things into action into our own lives. This is the kind of information we want to widely absorb, especially to positively offset the negative pressures of this period and time. Free and informative online classes. I was just talking to my friend Shay today, and she signed up for a Harvard class, so I'm really excited for her, and I know I'm going to sign up for a class as well with my husband after today. But these are some of the free informative online classes that are being offered online. I know Mashal took one of them, and she signed up for one as well.
Sorry, I was muted. I signed up for the Science of Well-Being, and I'm also going to sign up for Improving Your Business Through Culture of Health and Viral Marketing, and how to craft contagious content after this. It's really cool that you can go to Ivy League at home for free, so why not take advantage of that?
Totally. Coping with financial stress. This is a big one on everyone's minds these days. So I found a great article on this, actually. According to the APA, which is the American Psychological Association, these are some of the tips they provided to relieve stress about money economy. So pause, but don't panic. There's many negative stories in the newspapers and on television about the state of the economy. Pay attention, which can lead to a high level of anxiety and bad decision making. Avoid the tendency to overreact or to become passive. Remain calm and stay focused. Identify your finances and make a plan. Take stock of your particular financial situation and what causes you stress. Write down specific ways your family can reduce expenses or your finances more efficiently. Commit to a specific plan and review it regularly. Although this can be anxiety provoking in the short term, putting things down on paper and committing to a plan can reduce that stress. If you are having trouble paying bills or staying on top of debt, reach out for help by calling your bank, utilities, or credit card company. Recognize you deal with stress-related money. In tough economic times, are more likely to relieve stress by turning to unhealthy activities. Unfortunately, for example, smoking, drinking, gambling, emotional eating. The strain can also lead to more conflict and arguments between partners. Be alert to these behaviors. If they are causing you trouble, consider seeking help from a psychologist or community mental health clinic before the problem gets worse. Turn these challenging times into opportunities for real growth and change. Times like this, while difficult, can offer opportunities to take stock of your current situation and make needed changes. Think of ways that these economic challenges can motivate you to find healthier ways to deal with stress. Try taking a walk. It's an inexpensive way to get good exercise. Having dinner at home with your family may not only save you money, but help bring you closer together. Consider learning a new skill. Take a course through your employer or look into low-cost resources in your community that can lead to a better job. Key is to use this time to think outside the box and try new ways of managing your life. Asking for professional support. Credit counseling services and financial planners are available to help you take control over your. If you continue to be overwhelmed by the stress, you may want to talk with a psychologist who can help you address the emotions behind your financial worries, manage stress, and change unhealthy behaviors. So that kind of leads into self-care. Simple things to make a big difference, guys. Be mindful of your physical health. Get routine down on lockdown. Get enough sleep by going to bed and waking up at the same time each day. Take a shower, change of clothes, change out of your PJs, brush your teeth, trying out a new face mask, or working on that skincare you've always wanted to do. Studies even show if you look good, you feel good, you build confidence, and can more certainly be impactful to your mood. Taking care of your personal hygiene helps provide normalcy. Even if you're not able to go out, consider getting ready just like you normally would, and sticking to your typical schedule, as if it's a normal day for you despite being at home, can help you stay focused and reduce stress. Going outside as an activity or get active indoors. There are so many options, and regular physical activity and exercise can help reduce anxiety and improve mood. It's important to keep movement as part of your daily life, whether it's exercise or light movement like stretching and making sure you're not sitting down for too long. Find an activity that includes movement, such as dance. There's so many exercise apps. Get outside in an area that makes it easy to maintain distance from people. And these are also recommended by the CDC and WHO. So even your own nature trail or your own backyard is more than enough or better than nothing. Avoiding drugs. Yes, talking about all you cool kids who vape, smoke, did you know you're already at higher risk? Because COVID-19 affects the lungs. Your risk increases even more having pre-existing damage there. Using alcohol to try and make matters worse, it reduces your coping skills. Avoid taking drugs to cope unless your doctor prescribed medications for you. This is the time to work on yourself to do better and be better for your mind, body, and soul. And of course, eating healthy. This is the perfect time to start working on that meal plan you always wanted and reaching your goals by implementing both exercise and diet. This is also a great opportunity to start a new recipe and maybe even learning to cook to begin with. So this is a cute little survival guide that I found. And I can also send you guys a PowerPoint if you guys are interested.
Oh, that would be great.
So let's talk about nutrition. It's my favorite topic ever. And I want to focus on upcoming Ramadan and eating habits. How many of you go into Ramadan being like, I'm going to be pious, I'm going to be fasting, I'm going to exercise too somehow, I'm going to eat all my nutrients, I'm going to be so good about limiting all the sweets that I'm eating. And I don't know about you guys, but I have never once been successful at that. I get so overwhelmed with hunger and excitement to eat absolutely everything in my house when the fast breaks that I come out of Ramadan probably feeling worse than when I went in. But this is the year that we put an end to that. And we have to act now. How many of you guys, the beginning of this quarantine period, went and binged just everything that you possibly could? You were looking for and craving sweets and salty foods and all the stuff that was not good for you. I know I did it. But I had to quickly stop because I know there is a strong correlation between physical and mental health. So much so that those with chronic disease are twice as likely to suffer with anxiety and depression than their healthy counterparts. And this is only at baseline. It only amplifies with the seriousness of your condition or state of health. When your body is in a highly inflammatory state of chronic disease, your liver and your stomach are the two largest points of impact. Your gut and its microbiome both take a detrimental hit in high stress situations. Whether that stressful situation is real or perceived, it doesn't matter. Your body senses it as being real. When you guys have exams or when there's a high impact situation going on, have you ever said, God, I'm going to get a stress ulcer? Because I used to say that all the time in med school, and it's a real thing. There is a reason why in periods of high stress, whether it be traumatic life events or travel or exams or loss, whatever it may be, your stomach doesn't feel good. You feel bloated. You don't feel tight. Your appetite feels uneasy and irregular. Your bowel habits become irregular. And it's for a reason. There's this thing called the hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis. And this axis basically connects our higher centers in our brain to our gut microbiome. If you don't know what the microbiome is, there is this population of healthy bacteria and fungi that exists in our bodies. So not all bacteria is bad. We think of it as being this terrible, dirty, disease-causing thing, but there's also populations that are meant to be in our body in order to protect us from foreign invaders. So stress stimulates the release of this thing called cortisol, which is also referred to as the stress hormone. And through a series of downstream reactions, this cortisol gets released even if we have just perceived a threat and it doesn't really exist. And in animal models, we have seen that the elevation of this hormone was related to a decrease in two major bacteria in the microbiome. So think about it. You think and perceive stress in your mind. It may not even be happening. And on a molecular level, you're killing bacteria that is supposed to be beneficial to you in your body. You have control over it. And this bacteria largely resides in our gastrointestinal tract. This bacteria is responsible for 77% of our immune response. That is a huge chunk of our immune response. So if we wipe out this bacteria for whatever reason, whether it's things like stress or illnesses or medications, namely antibiotics, because they don't differentiate a lot of the time between the good and the bad bacteria, it means our body's immune response is down and we sit at a naturally higher risk of infection. And the concern doesn't even end here, because it also means that our body is going to have a harder time coping with the progression of the illness and its consequences, making recovery that much more strained. All in all, to say, if you have a weak natural immune response, even through things like stress, that's not even taking into account your overall state of health or your nutrition or long-term effects, you're going to be more at risk of not only this infection, but others. Then on the flip side, turning it back into mental health, whether your illness is acute or chronic, it affects your mental health in the long term. And the most obvious way is, of course, through grief and shock of diagnosis and things like that. We've spoken at length about the stigmatization and isolation that can be experienced by those affected. And it can be so painful to digest the reality of what our body's going through in the infected state. I was so careful. I did this, I did that. How am I infected? I didn't see it coming. And now what is going to come of me? It is normal and understandable to feel angry and misunderstood and limited and afflicted once you're under the weather and changes are happening in your body. And these circumstances and emotions are damaging even on a psychological level. In fact, studies at UC Berkeley found that chronic stress in the body causes the brain to generate fewer neurons and myelin producing cells than normal. So for those of you who don't know, neurons or nerves in the body are how we transmit impulses and signals from our brain to our limbs, through to our senses, everything. So if I want to move my hands right now, my brain is receiving a signal saying, I want to move my hands, and it's transmitting that impulse down my limbs through a series of neurons to actually elicit the action. Now, myelin is this sheath that surrounds each neuron. And if you think about the insulation in your house, that's exactly what myelin is, but for the neurons in your body. So if you don't have insulation in your house, you're going to lose a lot of heat, right? You're not going to be able to circulate it. Well, the myelin does the exact same thing for the neuron. If the neuron loses myelin for whatever reason, it also loses heat. Or in other words, it loses the ability to transmit that impulse from point A to point B. The impulse just dies halfway through where the myelin is lost. So the fact that stress, again, can cause the body to generate fewer neurons, meaning fewer mechanisms to get the impulses to do our body, to make our body do what we need it to do, and degenerates the myelin, that's a huge thing. Furthermore, there's this area called the hippocampus, and this is an area of the brain that's responsible for the regulation of emotion. And researchers found that periods of high stress led to a redirection of energy producing glucose to other parts of the body that were more in need than the hippocampus. So it's kind of like when you're in the cold and you get hypothermia, your fingers, your toes, they start going cold. But it's because that heat and the blood flow is being redirected to your core vital organs, your heart, your brain. So the same thing kind of happens with the hippocampus in high stress situations. Glucose that gets converted to energy gets redirected away from it. And what that actually leads to is this depletion of nutrients. And the more that the nutrients are depleted from the hippocampus, it actually results in a shrinkage in the volume of the hippocampus. We shrink an entire part of our brain in chronic stress situations. Isn't that crazy? So we believe that this is why people experiencing chronic stress are more likely to develop things like PTSD, mood disorders, anxiety, depression, and a whole host of other mental health conditions. So what can you do? You can avoid inflammatory triggers. You can eat the foods that are right for you. Things like sugar, things like dairy, things like inflammatory oils, and more. These are all conditions that produce inflammation in your body. You can also supplement with the right vitamins and minerals. We are always focused on macronutrients, making sure we get the right macros in our diet, but micronutrients, the vitamins and minerals that you're getting, are just as important. And you don't have to overload it. There's only so much that your body can absorb in a day, but be intentional about what you're eating. There is no such thing as the Switzerland of food. Food is either going to propel you towards health or it's going to make you evade it. It either goes one way or the other. There's no in between. So the next time you're having a meal, think about, is this a good meal? Is this pushing me closer to health or is it not? And over time, this is going to help your body remove toxins and clear congestion. When your body is congested with all these, inflammation-ridden toxic foods, it can't, or the organ can't function the way that it was designed to. The way that you detoxify that is not only by, like I said, supplementing right and making sure that you're avoiding your triggers in the first place and making sure that you're eating the right nutrients overall, but also be intentional with what you're putting in your body. Things like spirulina and chlorella are these amazing algae that haven't been affected by UV rays. And so they are packed with nutrients and phytonutrients that help your liver detoxify itself. The liver is responsible for cleaning your blood, so all your organs are getting clean blood rather than dirty blood, and so on and so forth. And if you want to know more, you can actually visit my website. It's just drmashal.com. It'll be listed at the end, and I have a whole inflammation detox protocol and free information that you can look into. So what I'm saying is, every molecule of our body is connected somehow, some way. It is more important than ever to ensure that we're keeping our body in as much harmony as possible, both for ourselves and for our loved ones. You guys have to go and educate your families about the value of the food that we're eating. I can only speak for Desi households, but on average, the food that we eat is not that clean. It's not that good for us. There's a reason why the Desi community, the Asian community, you can't name a single elder that has or doesn't have chronic heart disease, diabetes, arthritis, this, that, and the other. Everyone has something, but it doesn't develop overnight. This comes to be after years and years and years of reinforcing habits. So, like I said, each meal is either going to help them or evade their health. So it's up to you to go and take this knowledge and teach them and also teach your kids. it affects not only our immediate future and the predicament we're in right now, but our lives for years to come. So get active.
Thank you, Mashal. And then Sister Kamilah is actually going to talk about CBT and positive. Sister Kamilah.
I'm sorry, I was on mute. I apologize. Assalamu alaikum. Peace and blessings to everyone who is here. I'm happy to hear everybody. As you can tell, I have a beach theme up here with palm trees and the ocean blowing. So when we're talking about cognitive behavioral therapy, I just want to go into a little bit about what that is and why it's important for us to think and feel certain kinds of way. I mean, Nadia and Dr. Mashal has given so much information. A lot of the information that we have listened, maybe someone is taking notes and wrote things down, because a lot of it helps us to reduce stress. And sometimes if we're not able to do it on our own and we have to seek advice, we might go to a therapist and who might offer a technique, an intervention called cognitive behavioral therapy. We call it CBT. CBT is basically talk therapy. We usually say psychotherapy. Psychotherapy is can be either alone or in combination with other therapies. It's in treating mental disorders. The disorders can be anything in range of depression, eating disorders, PTSD. That's just to name a few. However, cognitive behavior therapy is often a preferred type of psychotherapy because it generally requires therapy in a structured way and is used for stressful events. Cognitive behavior therapy, CBT, is one of those therapeutic interventions that help with stressful events. And what's going on right now, all of this uncertainty that we are dealing with is basically a stressful event. Now, we know that Allah, the Creator, is in charge of everything. We have to understand that we have no power over anything, right? However, it's really something, because every day of our lives before the pandemic, it was still uncertainty, but it wasn't uncertainty on the conscious level for us. We were going about our daily life still not knowing what was going on, but now that we kind of get a sense of that we can get sick if we don't do X, Y, or Z, or we can get sick if we don't do certain things, this is causing us to feel more stress in our lives. And this little picture here, it talks about, one of the things it says is, I think instead of worrying about why people don't believe in you, we should worry about why we don't believe in ourselves. And basically, Nadia, if you can go to the next slide.
I'm so sorry.
That's okay. Basically, cognitive behavior therapy, one of the things is positive self-talk, or we talk about the cognitive triangle. The cognitive triangle is connections between thoughts, feelings, and actions. What we think influences how we feel. How we feel influences how we think, and they both influence our reaction. One of the things that's really important is that positive self-talk, in that you have the words, you live the words you tell yourself in your mind. Mm-hmm. Self-talk is the act of talking to yourself, either aloud or mentally. Now, I always tell my clients, I said, if you're going to talk to yourself and you're by yourself, it's okay to talk out loud. But it's kind of, people might look at you a little differently if you're talking to yourself out loud around other people. So you kind of want to just think about that a little bit and just kind of keep it to yourself when you're around other people. No matter how good or bad, these are the messages you tell yourself all day long. The messages you tell yourself will encourage and motivate you, or they will limit you because they are negative. For example, if you go to a work party and make a joke in front of 10 colleagues and no one really laughs, just a few, those being nice, what do you tell yourself after the party? You start thinking as you're driving home, oh, I shouldn't have said that. I shouldn't have did. I feel like an idiot. Or do you tell yourself, no big deal. At least I put myself out there and tried. Version 1 of self-talk will make you question yourself at your next social event. You may even hold yourself to too much out of fear of embarrassment or making yourself feel bad. Worse yet, you may develop an aversion because you feel insecure about your interactions with others. Version 2 of the self-talk, as far as making yourself feel good about what you said and don't worry about what other people say, you're allowed to give yourself a pass to try again, to just be human and interact with others. Self-talk is so important, as these are the messages that determine whether you should keep trying or not. The message you should send yourself can either help you succeed or they can hold you back and keep you paralyzed in fear. CBT is a therapeutic process that entails so much. It entails mindfulness. One of the reasons why I have this background of this image of this ocean is because of right now we have sun, but some days we don't always have sun. We have those days right now in Michigan, we might even have snow, we might have rain, we might have clouds, but we know eventually the sun will come out. It's not going to stay cloudy all the time. So with myself and trying to practice positive self-talk or being positive about what I want to do, I always try to think of something that's going to make me feel good. One of the things that I know Dr. Mashal mentioned, she talked about those endorphins, those feel-good transmitters that we have in our bodies. And one of the things that I do know that when we do exercise, we kind of get those endorphins, we kind of get them, they come into our body and we start thinking about all the things that we can do. I mean, sometimes we haven't exercised in months or years. And if we get out there and just do something a little strenuous to exert ourselves, we start having this feel-good feeling. And it is sooner to actually smile, right? And a lot of times during this uncertainty times, we can't see the smiles on a lot of people's faces because all of our faces are covered when we're out in public. However, our eyes are doing the smiling for us. And so a lot of times, even before the pandemic, just having a smile would make somebody feel good. And smiles can be pretty contagious. You can go to the next slide, Nadia. Thank you. This is just 15 ways to practice self-talk for success. Number 1. Have a purpose higher than yourself. Basically believing in something other than yourself, believing in a higher power, believing in something. Cut overly negative people out of your life. Be grateful. These are some of the things that were said throughout our webinar today. Don't compare yourself to others. That's a big one. That's one of those reasons why we want to cut down on some of our screen time on social media, because there's a lot of people going on there doing all of these wonderful things in the cortex of their home. However, it's okay if sitting in your home is making you happy and not going out to doing some things, and you're able to get on with your activities of daily living, that is fine. But if sitting at home and being isolated and not talking to anyone or not being able to see anyone or touch anyone is impacting you, then there's times that you need to do things differently. But we have to be able to understand what makes us comfortable, not to the point where we want to say, oh, I can't do this, because then we have to go into our self-talk. Use positive words with others. Believe in your success. Don't fear failure. Embrace our shortcomings. We have to embrace who we are. Replace negative thoughts with positive ones. Post positive affirmations. And I love that because I always tell myself, I have on my screen, one of the sticky notes that I have, it's okay. It's okay. Whatever's going on, it's okay. Visualize your success. Don't dwell in the past. Limit your intake of the news and media, because sometimes it can be pretty depressing because they sensationalize the worst. Help others. One of the things we talked about, Dr. Mashal mentioned, is doing things for other people actually makes you feel good. I mean, it's really every time, you know, I hear about food pantry, somebody's giving out food, or somebody is able to help somebody out as far as neighbors, it puts a smile on my face. And even when I'm able to do things myself, I just feel really good in being able to help other people out. Be physically active. Your level of physicality, if that's a word, what can you do to help you feel better about who you are, what you're doing? Dream and set goals. A lot of times we start off, you know, as college students, a lot of people have all of these big ideas and these big dreams, and then something get in the way and we feel as though we can't, you know, it's the worst thing ever. We're not going to get there. However, sometimes we have to can't think of the word. I can't think of the word right now, but we have to take things in little chunks. Do what's best for us. How you say it?
Compartmentalize?
Right, that's it. I couldn't think of it.
Yeah.
Thank you. That's what I was talking about. So that's what we have to do. My respected friends, one of the things that's really important is letting yourself know that you can do whatever it is you need to do. And if you need help, this is where that cognitive behavioral therapy come in at. CBT. One of the things that it is, it helps manage stress. It helps take away, it helps challenge those negative thoughts and turning them into positive thoughts. One of the things that I was just jotting some things down that made me think about some of the things that Dr. Mashal and Nadia were talking about is the cortisone that we have that can cause stress. And sometimes we might need help in decreasing that stress. Sometimes we can get in such an hypervigilant state that we don't know how to get out of it by ourselves. And this is where we might need somebody to talk to. We talk about the anxiety of losing money, you know, thinking about our jobs and things like that, and worrying about, you know, where's the next bill, how we're going to pay our bills and things like that. These situations can cause stress. And if we continue to worry about everything that's going on, it's going to cause even more stress on us physically, mentally, and even spiritually, because it's going to stop us from doing the things that we need to do to get closer to our Lord, to get closer to our goals, to get closer to the things that we need to have done. One of the things, there was an assessment, a questionnaire many years ago, and it goes around now in a lot of places. I work with youth sometime, and it's called the ACEs, and this is Adverse Childhood Experiences. This was a questionnaire that was geared toward childhood experiences for children that had stress or trauma in their life, and they made a connection between the physical health of them as adults. So a lot of times, if before the age of 18, if anyone has experienced different stressors, different trauma in their life, it actually was said, according to this questionnaire, that it could cause things like COPD, asthma, bronchitis, and different things like that. So a lot of things that the doctor was said just made a lot of sense when it comes down to our mental health, because my motto is to eat to live and not live to eat. You can go to the next.
Of course.
You can go to the next slide.
There we go.
I cannot control. These are things that you have in your control and things that you can control. So these are the things that you cannot control, you let go of. If others follow the rules of social distancing, you cannot control that. If you're following it and others are not following it, there's nothing we can do about that. The actions of others, predicting what will happen. This is uncertainty. We have no idea what's going to happen. Other people's motives, how others react, how long this will last, the amount of toilet paper at the store. I think a lot of us would like to try to control that.
Mm-hmm.
the things that we can control. So I will focus, so focusing on these will be important. A positive attitude, there we go. That positive attitude changes a lot. And I want you to just think about my voice. When Nadia will talk about mindfulness, I want you to just hear my voice and what I'm saying and think about that picture up there, because when we come in here, everybody came here for a purpose, and hopefully they get something out of this. And having that positive attitude and coming to gain this information will be able to, God willing, inshallah, to put it into practice, put some of these things into practice. One of the things I know that I got out of that I'm going to put into practice is what I've been doing, and I'm glad that Nadia said it, is doing those little corny things, because I like to do those little corny things that she mentioned.
Same.
Turning off the news, finding fun things to do at home, limiting social media, my kindness and grace, your own social distancing, and following CDC recommendations. Thank you, Nadia.
Thank you, Sister Kamilah. I really, really appreciated that.
And if you have any questions about cognitive behavior therapy, CBT, or the cognitive triangle, please put them in the question and answer section. Thank you.
Please do. Thank you so much, Sister Kamilah, for all that information, especially about CBT, because that leads into our mindfulness and meditation apps. So these are some of the apps that I found were helpful that incorporate CBT. This helps with anxiety and depression, etc. And so we got the Shine app, Headspace, and Calm Space. And all of these also, the grounding techniques are integrated into these as well. And grounding techniques is like another huge factor that helps clients and individuals. It brings attention back to the present moment. It's also a set of a simple strategy that can help you detach from emotional pain. So for example, anxiety, anger, sadness, self-harm. It's basically a way to distract yourself by focusing on something other than the difficult emotions you're experiencing. You may also think of grounding as centering, distracting, creating a safe place or healthy detachment. Although grounding does not solve the problem that is contributing to your unpleasant emotions, it does provide a temporary way to gain control over your feelings and prevent things from getting worse. So grounding anchors you, chance to calm down, and allows you to eventually return and address the problem that is triggering the unpleasant emotions to begin with. And grounding can be done anytime, anywhere, and no one has to know. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about that in a couple minutes. I also found these additional mental health apps that I think would be beneficial for a lot of the viewers or anybody in general. Not Okay is actually a free suicide prevention app. I thought it was really interesting. I didn't even know these apps that existed until I did research. What's Up, again, this is an amazing free app that uses CBT therapy and acceptance commitment therapy. It helps you cope with depression, anxiety, and stress and more. We have the Mood Kit, again, also utilizes CBT, Mind Shift, SAM, CBT, Thought Record Diary, and Talkspace Online Therapy. And so some of the grounding techniques, there's 3 kinds: mental, physical, and soothing. So if you can see about self-soothing, it's a quick and effective way to reduce the intensity of negative emotions. So basically using all your 5 senses. So basically mental grounding. So there are 3 types of grounding, and you may find that one of these types works better for you or that each is helpful. Mental grounding is describing in detail. So for example, the walls are white. There are 5 blue chairs. There's wooden against the wall. Describe the objects, sounds, textures, colors, smell, even shapes, numbers, temperature. You can do this anywhere. Play categories game with yourself. Try to think types of dogs, jazz musicians, animals, maybe even famous people that begin with each letter of the alphabet, cars, TV shows, writers, songs, cities, etc. Describe an everyday activity in great detail, like maybe describing a meal that you cook, like how you cooked it, what you do. Imagine using pleasant or comforting image. Again, use all of your senses to make it as real and vivid as possible. Read something, sing each word to yourself, or read each letter backwards so that you focus on the letters and not the meaning of the words. Humor, which I love to do. Think of something funny to jolt yourself out of your mood. Count to 10 or say the alphabet very slowly. The other one type of grounding is physical grounding. So basically, you know, run cool or warm water over your hands and just notice how that feels. Noticing the sensation of the when you wrap tightly onto your chair as hard as you can. Touch various objects around you. Like notice your body, the weight of your body in the chair, the feel of your back against the chair. Like right now, mine's a little hurting. Stretch, extend fingers, arms, legs as you can. Clench and release your fist, jump up and down, eat in a savoring way. Focus on your breathing. Noticing each inhale and exhale is very, very important. My mom loved to talk about these breathing exercises. She would make me and my sibling, my dad, do breathing exercises out on the lake back home in Florida. Miss you, Mom. And she loves doing this. And even today, before my presentation, she goes, don't forget your deep breathing exercise. Go outside, get some oxygen before you start. So these are very, very helpful techniques. And those apps actually integrate the breathing exercises as well. There's soothing grounding. So saying kind statements. Example, you are a good person going through you will get through this. Think of favorites, like your favorite color, animal, TV show. Picture people you care about and look at photos of them. Remember the words to an inspiring song, quote, or a poem that makes you feel better. Say a coping statement. Handle this. This feeling will pass. Plan a safe treat for yourself, like a piece of candy, a nice dinner, a warm bath, shopping. You know, girls, we're going to be doing that a lot few weeks. Think of things you look forward to the next week, perhaps time with a friend, going to a movie, going on a hike. Of course, we can't do that right now, but hey, you can always plan these to whenever that day comes that we are no longer social distancing, and that's something to look forward to. Skill, grounding takes a lot of practice. So practice as often as possible and before you actually need it. Then when you need to call upon the skill, you will have it, know it, and well. Try to notice which methods you like, physical or soothing grounding methods, or a combination of all. Start grounding early in a negative mood cycle. Start before anger, anxiety, or other feelings gets out of control. Okay. So I thought this was cute, the candle and the breath meditation, which I've been having a candle on the whole time I've been working on the presentation, so that helps me. So some little mindful things, you know, yoga, walking outside, we do often now, power naps. There's some good stuff in here. Meditations, of course. Affirmations that Sister Kamilah had talked about. Journaling. Writing a gratitude list. And let's see. Okay. I thought for the sake of the audience that we have tuned in, I thought it would be a great idea to also integrate getting ready for Ramadan. It would be a great distraction as Ramadan is closely approaching. So I thought it would be the perfect opportunity. And I know there's a doing this in regards to getting ready. So I won't dive too deep into it, but just hit some of the points me and my family are doing. And yes, while I was working on this presentation. So decorating the house. My friend back from Orlando, actually, Sarah told me that she is decorating the house, which they normally not do, to help keep the spirits alive of being Ramadan and making the house and themselves feel like it's still a joyous spiritual month, despite being home and can't enjoy it like we used to in the past years by breaking fast with family and friends and iftar parties, which I was looking forward to doing this year. Going to the masjid for prayers, tarawih, planning series together, which, you know, would do every year with our friends. We would go to Dearborn up those burger joints. So unfortunately, won't be doing that this year, but you know what? That's okay. And let's see, there's another one. Finding a hadith class to attend online. My husband and I have been looking into those as well. If any of you guys know of any hadith classes, can you please share them? I would love to have them as well, and I can also share those with others. I know Al Maghrib also has a lot of webinars and classes online. They do a lot of interactive courses that instills an Islamic learning experience and helps with making Islamic education as easy as possible. Learning and use updating your dua list. My friend Asma actually told me about this, and the #1 time dua gets granted is while fasting. So the goal would be, for example, you know, would be like making a list of 30 duas to do at iftar. That was like a wonder. Mentioned that she made a niyat or an intention of reading every morning and she's been pretty good since keeping it up with it since last Ramadan, even if it's an ayah or two. Small, consistent steps are better than large, big changes that don't last beyond Ramadan. And those were her words. So that was very, very helpful. Making up missed fasts, finding a charity to donate to. And again, if there's any charities that you guys are interested in, please also submit those, and we would love to share them out loud for others. Sponsor family and our kids from across the world. Me and my husband have been doing a year as well. And my mom is also organizing something for families for back home in Pakistan as well. And so we've been doing that and participating in a food drive. So, you know, ICNA Relief is big on drives. So we've been doing that as well. So we're getting to the end. So be thankful. While these are tough times right now for us, it's still important to count our blessings and be thankful for what we have. This includes showing gratitude to everyone on the front lines risking their lives. I don't just mean medical personnel, but also the administrative and upkeep staff in the hospitals and clinics. Even on the outside, the grocery shop being open so we can have sustenance. Bank tellers, politicians, city maintenance, delivery personnel. What are we going to do without Amazon, right, guys? And even those of us at home caring for family members, exhibiting symptoms that do not warrant hospitalization. Everyone is doing their part, even though what humanity tends to focus on is the suffering ahead of us. There must be some light at the end of the tunnel. Consider the fact the water is clear. There's dolphins swimming. Fog above India is wildlife is free in residential neighborhoods. And so many other signs of Mother Nature healing itself, subhanAllah. No matter what, there is a silver lining. Sukoon, if we just look for it. And does anyone have any questions?
All right, if anyone has any questions, they are able to submit them anonymously using the question and answer function at the bottom of the webinar. Or if for our viewers on YouTube Live, you may submit questions through the chat box and I'll be reading them aloud to our panelists. So we actually do have a question right now from an anonymous attendee. They are asking, are there certain foods that could help with moods and preventing feeling lazy or lethargic? I know eating junk food doesn't help and it's always beneficial to eat healthy food and veggies, but are specific foods known to help?
Should I take this one?
I think if you think you could answer it the best, then yes.
Well, I'll start off. So yeah, like you said, of course, as many colorful fruits and vegetables as you can eat, the better. But like I said, when I was talking about nutrition, overall, you kind of want to be on the positive end of the spectrum towards health rather than the negative. So for every healthy or health food you're having, if you're also having a sweet, then you never really reach anywhere. It's kind of canceling out. So just to make sure that you're ending each day on a high, on a positive note, is important. And then what you can do, if you want to take it a step further beyond which foods to eat them raw and eat them fresh and eat as many as possible, 5 to 7 servings a day, which is actually a lot. Half of us are not getting that. More than half of us are not getting that. And have them first thing in the morning. There's this great thing called food combining, and I can get more into it if you'd like, but essentially whatever you start your day off of or day off with, that is what your body is going to best absorb. So if you think of your body, okay, Nadia's husband Rizwan actually had a great metaphor, and he said you can't put regular fuel in a diesel car or something like that. I don't know cars, but it's essentially that you can't put trash essentially, or things that are going to be a detriment to you in your body and expect your body to run efficiently. If you had $1 million racehorse, you wouldn't feed it off the ground, you would invest in it completely. So treat yourself with that kind of level of respect too. And what I was saying about having it first thing in the morning, if you think of your stomach as this cylinder with the exit point at the bottom, you know how sometimes people can eat food and instantly bloat up, and you never understand why your stomach doesn't remain flat like it is first thing in the morning when you wake up? The reason behind that is, if you think about it, if there's only one exit point at the bottom of your stomach, if you fill your stomach, the bottom of that cylinder, with things that are cooked, proteins, grains, a lot of fat, all that stuff breaks down really slowly. Your body can't digest it very quickly. So it's just going to sit there. It's going to take its time. Your stomach's going to churn away. And then say your snack time comes, and then you decide to have an apple later on in the day, or you decide to have a salad for lunch or something fresh. That's going to sit on top of your cooked food or the protein, the things that digest slowly. But that stuff, the raw, healthy, from the earth stuff, actually digests really quickly. So what happens is all that stuff at the top that digests quickly, it breaks down, it ferments, and it just can't go anywhere because it's waiting for the food below it to exit. So it's just going to sit there, and what's going to happen? Your stomach's going to expand, and you're going to feel bloated and really, really tight. You're going to burp. That's what's happening in your body. And so when we talk about food combining, like I mentioned, it's basically saying not only eat one type of food at a time, like don't mix rapidly digesting foods with slow digesting foods. Like if you're having a salad, have your salad first and the protein on the side after. But also, as far as your general day is concerned, just to keep things simple for you, try and start your day with hot water and lemon. Simple thing that'll warm up your intestines, help flush your body, so you start your day on an empty stomach and feel a little bit more alert through the vitamin C, through the alkaline effect of the lemon water. And you'll go to the bathroom, so you'll feel nice and light. And then have your green juice. Second thing, part of my detox protocol, a bunch of my friends on here are also doing it. The number 2 thing you're going to have after your lemon water is a rich, rich, rich green juice full of as many greens and just 25% fruits as possible. So you want to keep a good balance, 75% vegetables, 25% fruit, to not overdo it on sugar. Pack that in first thing in the morning. And then later on, as far as specific foods you can eat, like I was talking about replenishing your gut microbiome, eat things like kefir, sauerkraut, kimchi, what else? Kombucha. All these things are fermented, and they actually host a lot of really, really good bacteria. So when you drink them or you eat them, it replenishes your natural microbiome balance and helps your stomach work the way that it should. Keep you regular, keep you feeling light. The moodiness and the lethargy, especially that comes secondary to eating a really heavy meal or something that isn't so good for you, usually comes from it not being able to digest properly and our body rejecting it. So pay attention to how your body reacts to certain categories of food. Is it bread that makes you slow down and need an afternoon nap and that second dose of coffee? Is it sugar? Is it dairy? What is it? So yeah, just pack in as many nutrients as you can first thing in the morning. Supplement with those things that are going to replenish your body with prebiotics and probiotics as the day goes on. And that's what I can recommend as far as what to do. Do you guys want to add to that?
Nope.
Very good answer. Thank you, doctor. Another question from a audience member we have is, can you share with us a sample breathing sequence? Like an example of a breathing sequence you would do to calm yourself down.
Breathing sequence?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's actually a lot of breathing sequences and a lot of breathing exercises. So a lot of it would be inhaling and holding it in and exhale very, very slow. There's also one where you hold each nostril and breathe in and out that way as well. That also helps regulate your mood, the oxygen levels in your body. And I think Sister Kamilah has more on that as well.
Right. So one of the things that controlled belly breathing is that we start, one of the ones that help really with stress is to do it from the diaphragm down low, basically where your belly is. And you can put your hands on your belly, and when you're breathing in through your nose, you're making sure your belly goes out. So it's like breathing in for 4 counts and you hold it for 4 counts, and you're breathing out through your mouth. And when you're breathing out through your mouth, you can make a sound and your belly is going in for 4 counts. So it takes a little practice, because when we're breathing, we're doing our breathing, a lot of times we're moving our chest. But if we bring it down some to the belly, it helps to control our bellies, and it helps us to start controlling what's going on with us. We're slowing down, so to speak. So that's a really good one to start with. And you can build up the times that you're holding in. We call that one the 4th square. And you can do the 8, 7, 8, and that's holding in for 8 counts. Breathing in for 8 counts, holding for 7, and breathing out for 8 counts. And that's still with the belly. So a lot of times you want to bring it down when you're trying to, if you're nervous about something, you get ready to take a test, or even before you go to sleep at night. That's one of the things that I tell a lot of kiddos to do because people have a hard time falling asleep, is just practice that belly breathing laying down and making sure your belly is going up and down and not your chest.
Yes.
All right. Thank you for that. So we also have another question from the audience. It says, what advice can you give about dealing with this pandemic from the life of the Prophet, peace be upon him, and the Sahaba?
Well, one of the things that I've heard is not to just run away from it, so to speak, is to we spend a lot of time in prayer and basically in contemplation and understand Allah's greatness, and understanding that that's one of the things that I've heard, as far as not trying to not run away from it, so to speak, but dealing with it through prayer and contemplation. I don't know, can you ladies offer some other tips? I just got my little people just came in. Let me make this.
All right, then. Thank you for that, sisters. Just some quick comments from the audience. One person told us that they do cooking to help calm them down during this time. That's one of their hobbies. They also, we had another audience member tell us they like to do puzzles, painting, reading, and working, unfortunately, but also making TikToks. They like doing that as well. And they said, thank you, Sister Kamilah. It's great advice to tell people to eat to live, and not live to eat. They thought that was very good advice, so they thank you for that. Yeah, I don't see any other questions from the audience, so I think we're good here.
Well, thank you so much, ICNA and MSA, for having us. This has been an absolute honor. And thank you, Nadia, for organizing all of this.
Of course, and thank you guys for being my fellow professionals and joining in at this. I know we have a lot on our plates these days, but it means a lot that you guys tuned in, and hopefully you guys can take away something from our presentation, and inshallah maybe we'll come up with another topic and we'll fill you guys in, and hopefully join in as well. And again, if you guys have any questions, our email addresses were at the end. Hopefully you guys wrote those down. If not, most of you guys know me, so just email. And
thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
All right.
And Ramadan Mubarak.
Ramadan Mubarak, everyone. Thank you for tuning in. If you'd like to find out more information about Muslim Family Services and ICNA Relief and how we can help you get through these quarantine blues, and how our charity, how our counseling services and workshops can help you, feel free to look us up online. It's www.muslimfamilyservices.org. Also, for those of you viewing on our YouTube channel, please feel free to subscribe. We do post content on here, especially during the coronavirus season. We are posting stuff on there as well. Also on our Facebook, you can look us up on Facebook at Muslim Family Services or MFS Detroit. But yeah, I think this is a good note to end it off on. Thank you everyone for attending. Thank you thank you to all of our panelists for helping us run this event.
Oh,
and yeah.
And also this was recorded, right? Because I think a lot of people weren't able to.
And this was also recorded, so I will be editing the footage and then putting it up on the YouTube as well.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you so much, Misbah. And thank you guys again, and we'll talk soon.
All right. Thank you, everyone. Assalamu alaikum.